Hi, I'm SJ, and welcome to Little Red Notebook's Take a Seat series, a series of short conversations with neurodiverse trailblazers. In this episode, we're joined by Jaime Semple, Practice Manager at Amelia Reid Psychology and neurodiverse advocate. Jaime lives with diagnosed ADHD and suspected ASD. Hi, Jaime. Take a seat.
Hello,
Great to have you here.
great to be here. Thank you.
Tell us about Amelia Reid Psychology.
So, Amelia Reid Psychology is an allied health and NDIS support clinic. We have a strong focus on empowering neurodiverse individuals to thrive as their authentic selves. So, that looks like providing neuroaffirming care from first contact with reception and all the way throughout, no matter where you are on your neurodiverse journey. Our motto is celebrating neurodiversity, and everything that we do is done with the intention of empowering neurodiverse individuals. We offer allied health and NDIS support services through one-on-one therapy, diagnostic assessments, social groups, psychoeducational programs. We have educational webinars, NDIS access advocacy, support coordination, support work. We have social skills and capacity building, and we're just continuously growing. It's just a really great environment for neurodiverse individuals to come as they are, be who they are, and be celebrated as they are.
And the great thing also is that not only yourself, but Amelia herself has a neurodiversity.
Yes, I would say, probably 90% of our staff have lived experience. So it does provide a certain perspective to the work that we provide, but it also provides a really inclusive environment to work in because we understand, I guess. You can feel it, I think. People tell that to us a lot, whether they're coming in for an interview for a job or whether it's a new client. I pride myself as the practice manager, I pride myself on creating that environment from the first point of contact right through to when they choose to exit engagement on whatever term that may be.
What's it like working in a space which is really tailored for people with neurodiversity compared to what you've had in the past? But this one is specifically run and, as you said, dominated by people with neurodiversity.
It's actually incredible. I don't know how to explain it in any other way than incredible. In the past, I've always experienced a pattern of hardworking and then burnout. And it wasn't until I worked in such an inclusive environment that I understood it was, neurodiverse burnout. And it was due to having to mask and not be myself. And working in a neurodiverse and neuroaffirming environment is just quite funny because we're all ourselves unapologetically and we're celebrated for that, and we can laugh at ourselves and laugh at each other for our unique things that we all bring to the team. And we will tell each other if we don't like the sound of their shoes, or the light is bothering us, or I don't like the sound of somebody chewing the carrots. And it's just normal, and it's accommodated, and it's celebrated, and it's just okay. And I can't imagine working in a neurotypical environment, or in an environment that's not accommodating to my diverse needs, because it's life changing to be surrounded by people that celebrate you for who you are.
You came in as client services administrator. Now you're the practice manager.
Mm-hmm.
How has the environment supported that?
I actually started as a student, so I did placement for my university degree in human services first, and then
Mhm.
halfway through my placement, I was offered a full-time job as the client services. I think the environment supported me in it by encouraging my input and encouraging my ideas. I'm a very honest and opinionated, and I communicate directly, as a lot of us do. And the first time I did that at Amelia Reid Psychology, I was thanked for doing it, which was a first for me. that empowered me to continue doing it, of course. So I continued to show up in team meetings. And when I say show up, I mean providing input and ideas. And I continued to provide an alternative perspective on how we could do things better and change systems and things like that based on my experience from other organizations, and being client services, being, I guess, at the forefront of the day to day. I had a lot of input on how to improve the client experience. And I guess just with being myself and showing up and hard work and contributing to the vision, and the right place at the right time, like the roles opened up, and sat Amelia down and said, hey, I want to do this. I want to show you that I can do this. This is what I've done. And just being direct and honest and hardworking. And yeah, I'm lucky enough that Amelia could see that she could trust me and that I was worth it. So yeah, that's how I was supported to get here.
You're diagnosed ADHD and you suspect you have ASD.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that.
Yes, so I was diagnosed ADHD in 2021. I was also diagnosed with BPD, borderline personality disorder, at the same time. And it all made sense at the time. And then as I was, medicated for ADHD and I managed the ADHD symptoms, the traits that I guess I struggled with, or that seemed to always stick around, I was continuing to, beat myself up because I couldn't work through them in therapy. There was just certain things that I just could not work through. And then when I started working here, and being in the environment and being around it and being exposed to autistic traits and knowledge around autism, I was just connecting the dots and thinking, that's what I am struggling with. They're the traits that I'm holding on to, that I'm beating myself up, that I can't work through. And so I spoke to Amelia about it, and Amelia, as a clinical psychologist, said, well, that quite often ADHD and autism do go hand in hand. And it's not something to beat yourself up over, because it may not be something you can work through, and it might just be your brain. And so it's something that I've accepted, and I feel so much at peace with thinking, it could just be a piece of me that I don't need to work through. I don't need to keep trying different things to try and get through. It's just who I am, and I can implement strategies so that it doesn't affect my life negatively, but it's not a bad thing, if that makes sense.
How was the diagnosis, but also the suspicion around autism, how has that impacted on you?
Initially, the diagnosis sent me into a bit of a spiral. I was feeling all sorts of emotions, mainly anger and resentment for being overlooked for so long. I felt like I had been seeking answers for a decade, and I felt like teachers and parents and any sort of adult that I went to for help had overlooked me. And I felt really sad for my younger self that she could have had all of this help all of these years ago. And then I just processed it, and I guess I turned it into a passion for my career. And I channeled it into, I don't know, I guess gratitude for finding out and being able to get help at my age, for getting help so young. I was only 23 at the time. And I guess it's just perspective, right? I can't believe I was 23, or I was only 23. And then the suspicion, it kind of was the same cycle. I did go to my psychiatrist about it, and he kind of shut it down. And I think that kind of plays into the fact that autism, like research around autism in women, is still very underdeveloped. But when speaking to Amelia about it, that I am already treating ADHD. There's not a whole lot you can do to treat autism. So I'm already kind of doing everything that I would already be doing with an autism diagnosis. So there's really no point in pushing that. It's just education, and I feel like I'm in the perfect environment regardless. So it was a big process, and I think it's the cycle of grief, in a way, of all of those emotions. But I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it's wonderful. There's a quote I came across of yours, which said, "I believe removing the stigma around our differences is what allows us to celebrate what makes us unique."
Mm.
Tell us about that.
Growing up, especially as I guess like a teenage girl in the era of social media being booming, I had a big perspective, or I guess a tunneled perspective on fitting in and being like everybody else. And I didn't know who I was I until mid-20s. I was masking a lot. I felt so lost, and I just didn't know who to be. I didn't know how to be myself. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And yeah, it wasn't until that I understood that I am different, and that's okay. It shouldn't be stigmatized because everybody has differences. Um, and then once I started, I guess, unmasking and unpacking that and celebrating who I was and living unapologetically myself, I felt like I could shine. And I noticed that being confident and being myself brings it out in other people. Um, and I think that's just wonderful. I think that it's an incredible way to live, to shine so brightly that you bring out the shine in everybody else rather than dim yourself and be surrounded by other people that are also dimming themselves. It just doesn't feel like a world that anybody would want to live in. And it makes me sad that so many people, especially teenagers, like teenagehood and puberty is so hard already, but I know that so many people go through that. And um, yeah, I think a lot of it comes from the stigma of being different.
What's the one treasure you value most about your neurodiversity?
I think how creative and innovative and imaginative I am. I My mind is constantly churning, which is not always a good thing, but I'm coming up with crazy ideas that are so far outside of the box, and it's awesome. It can feel so far out of reach to some people, but I'm very intuitive and I'm very driven, and I've learnt to follow that intuition regardless of whether it's the path that is commonly followed. And yeah, I think it's pretty awesome that my brain can think like that.
What are some of the ways that plays out?
In work, that can play out in thinking of something that, like, why don't we implement this? I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. I guess just getting it done. That maybe like a service,
Yeah.
connecting the dots of speaking to a couple of clients on the phone that have mentioned a couple words and then bringing it to a team meeting and implementing a service. It can look like I will bring my iPad and take a picture of the blank wall and then draw some things on it and show Amelia, and like, we should put this on the wall. Things like that. I feel like I'm a very visual. I have a very, very visual imagination, and I can look at a room or something and just visualize things all around it. And I've learned strategies like my iPad to be able to bring them to life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm lucky enough that Amelia encourages them. I guess that empowers the creativity and the imagination.
What about in your private life? How does it play out there?
In my private life, it empowers me to just chase my wildest dreams. I moved to Canada when I was 18 by myself. So that's an example of just having a wild dream and making it happen. Like, just studying things when, I mean, it's really not absurd to study, but being an undiagnosed ADHD at the time, it felt very absurd. Um, I think I'm going against the status quo. I constantly feel like I'm swimming upstream in my personal life. I think just chasing my dreams, chasing my wildest dreams, and trusting my intuition to know that I can make them happen.
Talking about beautiful wildest dreams, can you talk to us about your involvement with challenges abroad and
Mm,
especially, you know, heading over to Nepal?
yeah. So I volunteered in a rural school, primary school in Kathmandu in Nepal for 2 weeks. The volunteering program was. I had to do an elective at uni, and I love to travel and I love to, swim upstream. So I had a look at doing something totally outside of the box and found that you could volunteer overseas as an elective. So I did it. And yeah, so we went, I went with a group. I was the only one from my course and my uni, but there was maybe 12 of us, and we went and facilitated sustainability workshops to Nepalese children. Yeah, it was really eye-opening, seeing their environments and, living in their culture, just seeing, they go to school 6 days a week. The poverty is very incredible and nothing like I have ever seen. And yet the children and culture is the kindest and happiest I have ever experienced. And being so empathetic, it actually was really hard for me to be around. And to then I had to mask a lot to facilitate in schools. So it was really very emotionally taxing for me, but it was very eye-opening to see. But yeah, it was an incredible experience, definitely.
How did you manage your energy in that environment?
I didn't, to be honest, not in that environment. I was very burnt out. I didn't experience it. I didn't, notice it at the time. We flew in, and then the day after we were volunteering. So there was no time to process it. The culture shock was very big as well. But I'd never been in a third world country, I guess, with that much poverty before. So I kind of just kept going, just putting one foot in front of the other. I had a couple breakdowns in the workshops and tough conversations with the other volunteers, and told them they needed to step up and take over. And then I came home and honestly just hibernated for about 3 weeks. And yeah, it was very tough. I wasn't prepared for it mentally. Yeah, I don't know if I've still properly processed why. It was very overwhelming, a school, very sensory stimulating. And then, yeah, just I guess the culture shock and not having time to process that before we were thrown into the volunteering and stuff, was a lot.
If you're going to do it again, how would you do it differently?
I would have time to settle in before we started volunteering, and I wouldn't volunteer in a school. I have worked in a couple schools, and I have always felt like I've belonged in a school, and I think that experience solidified that it's just schools in general are too overstimulating for me. Too many noises, too many noises, essentially. Challenges Abroad offers other volunteering programs in the community in women's health. So that was probably more suited for me. Children is my passion. So I think the school is what I was more suited to, but probably being honest with myself about my own needs. But working for Amelia Reid is really what made me realize that I can ask for my diverse needs and they will be accommodated.
Who are your heroes?
I will say Chloe Hayden, because I think she's unapologetically herself and she's chased her dreams. I don't really know her upbringing or her story, but I feel like she might have experienced similar challenges that many neurodivergents do. And she followed her dreams anyway. And she's a big advocate for the community, which I really admire. So she's the only really one that comes to mind. I mean, I adore Amelia Reed. Um, I think she knows that. But yeah, I don't know. I've never really thought about that.
Tell me about your family.
My family, I'm the middle of three kids. I have an older sister and a younger brother, and we are all very close. I am the first of my family to be diagnosed with neurodiversity. Um, I like to diagnose them. But yeah, we are all very close. When I was diagnosed, I saw patterns in so many of them, extended family as well, that just made so much sense to, you know, things that happened in my childhood that I just could process because I'm like, oh, okay, can give you grace for that because it makes sense. But yes, we're very close. My siblings both live away, so I wish that we all lived closer together.
What about your mum and dad?
My parents still live on the coast. I had a very, I think I'm not sure what to say because I didn't have the best. I've had to process a lot with my relationship with my parents. I felt I was seeking answers about around 13, 14 when I started to feel like I was struggling and different and really struggling mentally. And I was just continuously shut down and ignored and told, no, basically, you're not feeling like this, you're not getting help. And what do you do at that age?
Yeah.
I went to the school counselor and I was told the same thing. Maybe not no, but she never followed up, which is to a teenager, that's basically you're fine. So I've felt a lot of I had to process a lot of resentment and anger and towards that. And when I started working for Amelia Reed and we discussed the possibility of autism, and I started seeing more traits of autism in my mum, it allowed me to process it a lot more because I get it, and I get knowing her upbringing and then my nan's upbringing and the intergenerational trauma that we've all experienced. I'm able to see the difference and the improvement in mothering. I can see that tangibly. So it's hard to be angry and it's hard to hold on to resentment when I can see how she was better than how she was raised, and I can see how my nan was better than how she was raised. And the only thing I can do is end it all together and give them all grace because they tried to end it, but it's different now. The knowledge that we have around mental health and getting help is different, and yeah, I can end it.
If you were in the room with your teenage self around about that 13 years of age, what would you say?
Keep going, keep going. You will find yourself, you will find your tribe, you'll be okay. You'll end up better than you ever even imagined. Yeah, just keep going.
That's a wonderful sentiment to finish on, Jamie. So thank you for being part of Take a Seat.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.